All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Devstream Breakdown 191. We have the other half of the old piece content to talk about. For that, if you are looking for information on all of the other stuff that was covered in the previous Devstream last month, which is all of this stuff, generally speaking, which is that Geyer Prime is going to be out with the old piece, the Devil's Triad, all that stuff with Marie and Leon, the Protos, Roth, all that stuff. That is in the previous breakdown because we already talked about that. TennoCon tickets are opening on February 27th. We've kind of like talked about that a bit as well. And the Operator and Drifter visual rework stuff, that also mainly has been talked about in the prior Devstream breakdown, along with the Varuna Deluxe. We did get to see the actual model of the Varuna Deluxe that is going to be coming out. It has a really bad base color palette, but I'm hoping that it is going to be better in game. They showed off a few random colorations for it that seemed like there's some hope there, but I'm not a personal big fan of the helmet overall. But these are all things that we've talked about pretty much at length in the previous Devstream stuff. So we have other stuff to talk about, mainly around the actual old piece itself content. Of course, no spoilers. They did not spoil us on like what's going on in the quest. What we did get is the release date, which is December 10th. Now, here's the part where I've been talking about this on stream for a minute, but you guys on YouTube don't know. I have been invited by DE to the Game Awards, which means I am gone from this environment from the 8th until the 13th. Now, you'll note that that is a number of days on both sides of that update. So I'm not going to be streaming it day of because I'll be at the Game Awards, which should be a really cool experience. But I'm not going to be here on release date for the first time since the TennoCon that they released the Star Chart rework. Vectors of the Rail, I believe it was. I think this is the first time that's happened in many, many, many years. So expect to see me on the 14th, the day I get back, and I'll be over here on the twitch.tv/Brozimes doing it in emote only mode. So that'll be what I'm up to on the way back from that. This, it was only going to go one cutaways. I was hoping it was going to be the third, but it'll be fine. We can wait for it. I'm sure it'll be a really good time at the TGAs. I'll be, doing all the things from there. Railjack, no, I played Railjack on release as well. So I have chat over here still as the Streamathon timer still continues on, though we are finally below 1 day again. So there's that. Things to talk about. The skip button. So this is a very interesting thing that they are trying in the old piece update. And we're going to talk about like what this brings you to, but importantly, what this is needs to be discussed. So the skip button is not, before anyone gives you misinformation, it is not a story skip. It does not skip all the quests and not let you play any of the story of the game. It does not do that. What it does do is it lets you play two modes, the Parita Rebellion and Descendia, without having to do all the quests, which means it lets you, as a player who is caught up, basically bring someone who's not caught up to what the current new stuff is, so you can still play with your friends who are maybe lapsed and maybe quit around whenever Railjack came out, and they haven't done the extra 7 hours of quests that there are to actually get caught up. That's all it's for. There have been a number of people that have misconstrued what this is. This is just letting people play these two game modes without having to do all the story quests. It is not skipping the story itself. For that, I think that this is a really, really positive thing, because I think there's a big positive difference between being able to just jump back into Warframe, get invited by your friends, type in skip here to be like, I can just play the quests later, and just be able to, that timer, and just be able to, outrageous, just be able to get in and start playing for a while and maybe update your builds and play some content and just like have fun with your friends that are playing Warframe who are caught up, and then be able to later be like, well, I am enjoying this now, like on your own time, play through some of the quests and stuff and get caught up to that point. That is all, I think, really, really good. And just like hugely positive for the kind of flow of getting players who are lapsed back into the game. Now, this does have protections for not just dragging new players into here or having new players just show up here to bog down these game modes. And that is that there is a protection here where people who are under MR10 can't matchmake into this mode. So you could still drag someone into it through like inviting them specifically to the content, but they won't be in the matchmaking for the mode. Now, am I going to say that people who are like MR10, like that's immediately, you meet all the requirements, that you're definitely going to be able to be successful in these modes? No, but I also think that in general, this is a protection for people accidentally ending up here and like, not paying attention and ending up here. And if you're like MR10 plus, you probably have at least enough experience where it's not going to be very accidental, which I think is good and fine. But we'll see how it shakes out. D said they're like very open to like just wholesale removing this, just like they did the Duviri start, if it just doesn't work out and doesn't go well. But I think that there are good ideas here about like why they are implementing this, and I think it can go very, very positively depending on how people end up interacting with it. Moving on, we have a deluxe skin that is coming out next year. This is not going to be in the old piece, but I just wanted to show the Dagath Deluxe, the Year of the Haunts, the horse skin. I think this concept looks great. Not so much of a fan of the concept of like what's going on here with the Kaith Deluxe that we're getting with this. But this concept looks very good. I'm hoping that like the tail and like the kind of hair that we have here are not the just energy you see here, as this is like an in-game model and this is more of like a 2D concept. But we'll see how it shakes out whenever we actually get to in-game, because like the Kaith I'm not super big on, but this Dagath concept like from this art is looking pretty good. Hopefully Dagath can also maybe get some buffs to her 4, because it'll be a little awkward to have the Year of the Horse skin whenever I feel like it's the best thing you can be doing to get rid of her horses. So that's a bit awkward. Maybe we'll see some changes there. Speaking of changes, and well, not really changes as much as brand new things, Uriel. We have Uriel's kind of full kit and like what's going to be going on, starting with his first 3 abilities that are just always happening, which are his 3 demons. These do have names, but the names that they have like are like Gulpagore and all. Demon 1, Demon 2, Demon 3 that's what they are. So we have the first demon, which is just going to be walking around using Kalervo's 3. He's going to be chaining enemies together, and they are going to be sharing damage that they take. This is, for those of you who've played Kalervo, you already know this, an incredibly good effect, especially on smaller groups of enemies. Super, super solid. It was unclear just how like fast this demon will be doing this effect, but this is just generally helpful. I do wonder if, similar to Kalervo's 3, your teammates don't benefit from this, but it'll be really, really nice if your teammates do benefit from it, because then it's just kind of always helping the squad kill groups of enemies just a little bit faster. So this is very nice in the first demon, very just passively good. Second demon, also very passively good. It's a bird that latches on to the enemy and hard stuns it, and when they die, they explode into orbs, both energy and health orbs. Very, very powerful. Great for resourcing any of your teammates who are using Equilibrium. If you decide to build Equilibrium on Uriel, just good stuff in general for just refilling up on energy. And then the third demon creates a rune from dead bodies that buff fire rate and give you heat ammo. So this is kind of a weird one. From what they showed, he's a little slow at it, maybe. But of course, that needs testing in game to see if it feels a little on the slow side. The runes do appear where the bodies were, so where kind of what the tile is and stuff might affect this, but the effect that you get from picking up these runes is of course very good. Buffing fire rate, obviously a DPS increase, and getting heat ammo, which appears to be just like how Sight would give himself heat ammo, where it's always proccing heat, is just inherently very, very powerful. So definitely a good effect, and this is all just wrapped up in his passive. These are things that are just going to be happening because your little demon dudes exist and you are there. With his 1, as we saw before, he gets a fire aura and then he can just fly around with bullet jump. It did look like they've sped this up since the last dev stream, so that was cool. But in general, we kind of have seen this already. Seems like it'll be at least interesting for getting around. We'll see if it's like moddable with like, sprint speed, or if strength makes it faster or whatnot. Maybe range makes it faster. Could be any kind of scaling thing like that. With how much speed we can get out of this. Would be very funny if this is competitive with like Gauss speed if we're getting around. His 2 is very, very simple, which is just to heal himself, his demons, status cleanse himself and his demons, and revive all of your demons who have died for one reason or another. So his 2 is just full recovery, just heal everybody up. Pretty generically useful. There is not notably any real survivability in this kit, so maybe we'll just be on like adaptation umbrals to keep him going. A little bit concerned about the survivability of him. Having a heal with no other thing that's making you live is definitely a little bit sketchy, but his demons are theoretically like a distraction as well, so maybe it'll be easier than I think. This one's going to need some like testing to suss out just how easy that's going to be. But I could definitely see a world where this is the ability that gets replaced with like Eclipse or something for just better consistent survivability on top of like adaptation to give you, you know, that like 97.5% DR, or at least as close as you can get to that, hopefully at least 90. With that, we have his 3, which is damage vuln and spreads an aura. You cast this with your companion's health, so this does not use energy. So there is a synergy between these 2 abilities where you can heal them all for your 2's cost and then just cast your 3 a bunch to spread a damage vuln. The damage of this seemed fine, but not a lot of multicasting was happening on what we were seeing. So it's not like we were seeing like what happens if you spam this ability, and we don't know if it was built specifically for it or like just exactly how much this is going to need in any way, shape, or form. But seemed pretty good. Applying damage vulns is generally pretty fine, and the AoE looked reasonable, especially if it is the base range. The 4 is where things get interesting because we don't really know how it works. They kind of let this ability speak for itself, and basically you explode, you just blow up. You blow up, the entire everything you can see becomes fire that's constantly burning, and it killed every enemy that was on screen. Pretty impressive whenever it's just shown off in the way that it was, but it does have a meter, and that meter fills based on like usage of the abilities. So it's unknown just how effective this will be in like, you know, actual mission, whether we're going to be able to like build it up fast and blow rooms up all the time and see like if we can just get a ton of nukes going. And just have like these AoEs just kind of like be happening all the time and burning enemies as they're spawning and stuff. Like there's a lot of potential here that we don't have all the details on, but with this being Uriel's whole kit, it definitely seems interesting. It seems like he's got kind of a Warframe worth of stuff happening with his demons. They'll obviously be happening at like, you know, character AI rate. So we'll see how that works out. Obviously we've had some pretty dumb companions in the past, looking at Atlas's companions as a main example of that. But these abilities on their own, with a, you know, if you can figure out the survivability and cast his 4 pretty regularly, that seems like it's probably going to work out to be pretty good. His signature weapon is also very interesting and worth talking about, though, and that is the Vincubus. This is a multi-slot weapon, the first of its kind. It uses your primary and your melee slot if you equip it at all, which means if you equip one, you must have the other, which is interesting for how strong I think this weapon probably is going to need to be in both forms to justify that. Also raises some questions about how this is going to work in like EDA and ETA, if you can roll this weapon or if it's not available at all. Some interesting stuff around there that I'll be curious to see what the answers are. But this one is super cool. It's basically just a Garand. Like the primary fire is just a Garand. The melee is a unique moveset, so it's like a new melee grip alongside just being a kind of marksman rifle that it has the Garand ping, of course, very important. So interesting. Definitely is going to be a weapon that I think we'll see a lot of use just for the sound design at the very, very least. So should be good. Speaking of weapons, let's talk about the focus expansion. So focus weapons can be gained through Marie. So Marie is going to be the one who is handling, giving us these in our normal gameplay. It seems like we're going to get them anyway for like the old piece flashbacks because like we had them already. But this is where you're going to be getting these just from her progression is where you will pick these up. It does currently seem like these are locked to their individual schools. So Lorak is Zeneric. Vexoric is the big longsword that we saw on Naramon. Thara is Matarai. And then Kogran is Unairu. And then Nidri is Vazarin, I believe. I believe that is that is where all of these go. And then in addition to that, once we get these, they're going to be moddable. And this menu is a little confusing. So this is upgrades. This is Lorac. So this is the book. It has an arcane slot in the middle and then the 5 slots around it. None of these mods have costs, and the tech to list artifacts have their section, and then operator, primary, and just damage in general also have their sections. It seems like this is an overarching operator modding, because otherwise there's no need for these stats to be in here. But it could also be that this is just unfinished and it's just kind of like, you know, not quite done yet with what things are going to end up being shown here. So like, you know, development build subject to change, take that into account. But it's interesting that, like, you know, these mods, given what is on the left side here, could kind of be anything. And these mods are going to come from our new game mode stuff. Speaking of new game mode stuff, we're of course not going to talk about Descendia. Descendia is its own thing that we talked about on the last Devstream breakdown. But we are getting the Operation Blood of Parita on December 16th, which will be great because I'll be back by then. It's a week after the update, and this is in the Parita Rebellion game mode. So with this, what is the Parita Rebellion? It's basically TLDR. For the event, this is new cosmetics, and they're also going to be rerunning a bunch of the past event rewards so that people just have access to them. I assume that is going to be stuff like the Jade Ephemeras, the Arcanes, all of that kind of business. I know some people were saying that it'll be like the Forma and stuff as well, which I doubt, but would be cool. And this is, as a mode, it is 3 different versions of the same type of thing, which is that it is 3 bosses, the Hunhalus, the Dactylist, and Vanguard, that you choose one of them and you go into a 12-minute war mission where objectives will spawn as you complete them, and you do as many as you possibly can. And every 3, though it seems like there's some flexibility on that, there will be an extra event that will spawn so that you can get more stuff. So basically, just do as much as you possibly can in 12 minutes. Probably going to be very popular to be Titania in this mode if I had to take a guess, and should be a good time. They did also show that there's going to be an ability to swap focus schools for different buffs, like getting more power, strength, and efficiency and such like that, whenever you're entering this mission. But I don't know how likely it is that you're probably going to want to swap your focus school, unless this is also a really good source of getting focus itself, as, like, you know, farming out your focus schools. If this mode is really, really good for that, then I could see that being the case. But without that, just swapping for buffs, it seems like you probably would rather settle for whatever buffs you just get as a base. But this mode looked really cool. It's definitely much, not easier, but like simpler than like what Descendia kind of represents. Descendia is like, 21 floors that you're doing very, very quickly. This is more just like open gameplay, do Warframe stuff in like a big area that has objectives constantly spawning. But it seems really cool. And the bosses at the end, like the Hunless, seem pretty involved. It'll be curious to see kind of the new bosses, since they changed damage attenuation to be so much different. It'll be neat to see kind of what boss design looks like in a post, attenuation world. Like, not post attenuation, but post really shitty attenuation world. Should be interesting to see if that boss design has been kind of clearly influenced in any ways, because they probably knew they were doing the attenuation changes alongside making these. So how that stacks up to the bosses that we have now should be pretty curious. But yeah, lots of cool stuff, lots of, good things. I mean, I'm looking forward to the update. It's huge, right? I mean, we have all the things coming, like 2 major game modes, the main quest itself, the expansion with the Devil's Triad to like a bunch of like the story and just like character interaction things, like all of the new focus stuff. Like, I mean, this update is like, it's going to be dummy huge. And I'll be covering all the things when I get back from the TGs, which should be a really cool event. And I'll keep you guys updated on that as much as I can. But yeah, super, super interesting. Interesting stuff. Should be fun. One negative thing, no Gyre buffs announced. So sad stuff there. Gyre appears to not be getting any touch-ups, but we could always get surprised on update day that like, actually we just did not mention it because we forgot. Gyre like is in fact getting buffed, and that would be very nice, but I wouldn't hold my breath on it. But yeah, that's gonna do it for the Devstream breakdown. I guess we're over one day again. We'll see if that lasts forever. But yeah, I'm gonna be doing the Streamathon over on twitch.tv/Brozime for at least 2 more days, because I'm doing 12 on, 12 off over here. So I'll see you guys on YouTube whenever Twitch is done with that. The Twitch chat is is very into me being here. We're on day 84, for those wondering, of the Streamathon. So yeah. And so ends another video. Again, thank you all to my $10 patrons: Athean, Eighth, Albern Drake, Alex Barnum, Arbiter Daydream, Baby Hoot, Barkus, Benuven, Plotsmatic, Brutus Salazar, Panolathra, Clobworld 3, Dylan Dworsky, Ithrain, James Harthorn, JC4 Science, Josh, Nightcar, 1981, Lord Ian, Luzanth, Matt Holt, Mike Kiesman, Mikokel, Michta, Nerve, Ruby, S267, who thank you for reminding me that this list was wrong in the last video, Sanu, Cezon, Sharp 247, The Coupon of Death, Waifu Wars, Waudet01, Zerafir, and Zero Weaves Planet, of course, all of the $5 and $2 patrons as well. You are all very much appreciated. There's getting to be very little time to say anything else at the end of these, so I'm going to keep it real. So the support is just wondrous.